Welcome to the Mansuri Review, where we, go beyond just the, everyday headlines
Yeah,
and we take a deeper look at, the interviews that are on the Mansuri show,
absolutely.
which is on ARY Digital TV,
Mhm.
and also the articles from Pakistan Link and Urdu Link.
Yeah.
And today we're going to be taking a deep dive
Okay.
into, well, something very important.
Right.
March 23rd, 1940.
Ah, yes.
A very foundational moment in the history of Pakistan.
Absolutely.
The Pakistan Resolution.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to be looking at it through the lens of a really insightful article by Akhtar Mahmud Faruqui in Pakistan Link.
Okay, great.
And, you had shared this material because you really wanted to understand the roots of this, this really pivotal declaration. And that's what we're going to explore together today. So
Yeah, let's get into it.
let's get into it.
I think, Akhtar Faruqui really does a great job in this article of transporting us back to that day,
Right.
March 23rd, 1940, in Lahore at Mehta Park. And you know what really stands out right away
Mm-hmm.
is just the force of personality
Yeah.
of Quaid-i-Azam Mohammad Ali Jinnah.
Right.
In his address there, he didn't just, suggest a different path for the Muslims of South Asia.
Right.
He demanded it.
He did.
He unequivocally demanded a separate nation,
Right.
a homeland
Yeah.
for the Muslims where they would no longer be, relegated to minority status,
Right.
but would be the defining majority.
Yeah, it's really striking how Faruqi captures the weight of that moment.
Yeah.
And he quotes Jinnah, and it's so powerful. He
Yeah.
says, quote, "The Muslims are a nation by any definition. The problem in India is not of an intercommunal but manifestly international character, and it must be treated as such. The only course open to us all is to allow the major nations separate homelands."
Right. And I think it's really critical to remember that these aren't just, political statements
Right.
that he's making. These are declarations of identity
Yes.
for the Muslims of South Asia
It is.
at the time.
Yeah, and what I find so fascinating is that Faruqi also talks about the impact that this speech had on everyone who was there.
Yeah.
The audience was huge,
Mhm.
and yet there was a hushed silence
Yes.
when Jinnah was speaking, and it really speaks volumes about the trust that he had earned.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes you think, even though his accent,
Right.
his clipped British accent and his use of the King's English may not have been, understood by everyone there in its entirety,
Right.
the core message
Yeah.
clearly resonated deeply.
It did, and, Professor Stanley Wilpert, who's quoted in the article,
Yeah.
calls Jinnah's speech, quote, "a truly stellar performance."
Yeah.
And even the Times of India
Well,
acknowledged Jinnah's powerful presence, even though, there may have been some language barriers.
mhm.
So it just really underscores the significance of that moment
Yeah,
and the man who was leading it.
absolutely.
You're listening to the Mansuri Review. So now Akhtar Mahmud Faruqi's article brings up a very interesting point.
And it kind of highlights a shift in Jinnah's political journey.
Yeah.
Here was a man who, in 1916, was known as the ambassador of Hindu-Muslim unity.
Right.
He was a big proponent of Indian nationalism.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think sparked this significant change in his ultimate objective?
Well, that's the question, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, what caused that change?
Yeah.
And I think Faruqi gives us some really interesting insight here.
Okay.
He describes Jinnah as this quintessential Victorian gentleman,
Right.
a Lincoln Inn barrister, deeply influenced by European Enlightenment ideals.
Right.
He admired figures like Gladstone and Lincoln, who
Wow.
championed self-determination.
Right.
So perhaps his early belief was that, Muslim rights could be achieved within a unified India.
Right.
But over time, as the political realities on the ground shifted,
Yeah.
he really came to believe that a separate state
Mhm.
was the only way to effectively safeguard those rights.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And the article really emphasizes that this Pakistan resolution wasn't just something that happened in isolation.
Right.
It was a direct response
It's a reaction.
to the Indian National Congress's repeated attempts to kind of sideline the Muslim community and their political aspirations.
Yeah, they just weren't being heard.
They weren't.
And their needs weren't being met.
And Faruqi even references Professor Shariful Mujahid,
Yeah.
who says that the core issue is really this denial of a separate political entity for the Muslim community.
Yeah.
And to really illustrate this point,
Yeah.
he brings up Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru's statement from 1936.
Oh, yeah.
Where Nehru basically said that it was only the Congress and its opposition that truly mattered.
Right.
And all
Yeah.
these other groups would just have to, line up,
Yeah, just pick a side, basically.
pick a side.
Yeah.
So that didn't leave much room
Yeah, it did.
for an independent Muslim political voice.
And Jinnah was having none of it.
Yeah.
He's like, no,
right.
we're not doing that.
And at the Calcutta Muslim League meeting, Jinnah basically said, quote, "I refuse to line up with the Congress. I refuse to accept this proposition. There is a third party in this country, and that is Muslim India. We are not going to be camp followers of any party."
And that was a real turning point.
Yeah.
It was a very clear signal that things were headed towards a demand for a distinct political future.
Right.
You're listening to the Mansuri Review.
Yeah.
Building on this momentum
Okay.
that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
The March 23rd, 1940 Pakistan Resolution
Yes.
really formally articulated the idea of India as being binational and bicultural.
Right.
And this declaration, as the article clearly says,
Yeah.
ultimately paved the way for the creation of India and Pakistan in August 1947.
Yeah.
It was a defining moment that redrew the map and the destinies of millions.
It did. Now, moving to the present,
Okay.
Akhtar Mahmud Faruqui reflects on the, many decades since that resolution. And he acknowledges that there have been some, irritants.
Challenges.
Road
bumps.
things that you would expect any young nation to face. But he really underscores the successes, too.
Yeah.
He really emphasizes the significant successes that demonstrate Pakistan's progress.
Yeah, and I love how he puts it. It's a
Right.
shift from the 1940 winter of despair
Right.
to this spring of hope in post-independence Pakistan.
And to back up this, optimistic view, he gives us some great examples.
He does.
Like, for instance, the United Nations naming its prestigious research institute in Italy,
Oh, yeah.
the Salam International Center for Theoretical Physics,
Yes.
after Pakistan's first Nobel laureate,
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Abdus-Salam.
That's a source of immense pride for the nation.
It is.
They have that kind of international recognition
For sure.
for the groundbreaking work that he did.
Absolutely. He also highlights some of the advancements that have been made in Pakistan's nuclear program. He talks about the Pakistani metallurgists who are using indigenous uranium for fuel fabrication. And he also points to the really impressive safety record of Pakistan's nuclear energy generation.
It's huge.
No Chernobyl, no 3 Mile Island.
Right.
That really showcases the expertise and the commitment to safety
Absolutely.
within the country.
Yeah. And it's not just, the scientific realm
Right.
where Pakistan has made strides.
Yeah.
Faruqui also talks about the incredible achievements of Pakistani women in so many different fields.
Right.
He talks about their success as Nobel Prize winners, prime ministers, ambassadors,
Yes.
Oscar-winning producers,
Right.
fighter pilots even.
Yeah.
And he talks about their impactful advocacy on the Kashmir issue at the United Nations. So it's really, these are just a few examples.
Yeah.
But I think they really reflect the multifaceted contributions of women to Pakistan's progress.
Absolutely. You're listening to the Mansuri Review. And of course, the article also acknowledges the important role
Yes.
of a free press.
Absolutely.
And he specifically mentions some publications like Dawn Herald, the Express Tribune, Daily Times, and Pakistan Link itself.
Of course.
And he also talks about the growth of different TV channels that are offering, national perspectives.
And that diversity is important,
It is.
right? It's good to have all these different voices contributing to the national conversation.
Absolutely. It fosters a more, informed discourse.
Yeah, for sure. Faruqui also emphasizes the critical role that institutions of higher learning play in Pakistan.
Right.
And nurturing technical skills and leadership. He mentions universities like LUMS, USGI, IBA.
Yeah.
And these universities, are really instrumental in driving innovation and preparing future generations
Absolutely.
for, the challenges and opportunities ahead.
Right. And he also talks about the vibrant artistic and intellectual landscape in Pakistan.
Yeah.
Mentions the prolific work of the artist Sadaqain. And in a really inspiring example, he talks about Arfa Abdul Karim Rendahawa,
Oh, wow.
who became the youngest Microsoft certified professional at 9 years old.
Wow, 9-year-old.
9 years old.
That's amazing.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So, these examples really showcase the dynamism
That's
and the potential within Pakistan.
Yeah. Faruqui also shines a light on Pakistan's efforts to combat terrorism.
Yeah.
He talks about the Pakistan Army's operations in the very challenging terrain of North Waziristan.
Mm-hmm.
And he emphasizes the significant sacrifices made by both officers and soldiers
Right.
in these operations since 9/11.
Right.
It's important to acknowledge that.
It is. And it's also worth noting that Faruqi observes some of the social changes that have happened as well. He references Western media reports about the growing middle class in Pakistan and how they're embracing global trends in food and fashion.
Yeah.
So he suggests that this, evolving social landscape is really challenging some of the stereotypical views
Right.
of the country.
It's a much more dynamic
Yeah,
and complex picture
it-
than I think a lot of people realize.
And he also talks about the rise of these modern malls
Yeah.
that are catering to, a diverse consumer base. So
Yeah.
it really illustrates this transformation that's been happening.
Yeah. And the article concludes with this really powerful symbol
Yes.
of Pakistan's contributions to the world.
Right.
The unveiling of Dr. Abdus Salam's statue at the International Atomic Energy Agency headquarters
In Vienna.
in Vienna.
Mm-hmm.
This recognition by IAEA Director General Yukiya Amano, I think, really underscores
Yeah,
Pakistan's enduring impact on the world of science.
it does. This deep dive into Akhtar Mahmud Faruqi's article in Pakistan Link has really illuminated the significance of the March 23rd, 1940 Pakistan Resolution. We went from Quaid-i-Azam Mohammad Ali Jinnah's compelling vision to the reflections on Pakistan's journey and its many achievements. And we hope that this has provided you with a richer understanding of this pivotal moment in Pakistan's history and the progress that's been made since then.
I think it has.
The pursuit of self-determination that
Mhm.
was voiced on that day continues to shape Pakistan's trajectory.
Absolutely. I think Faruqi's article really reminds us
Yeah.
that those aspirations,
Yeah.
the spirit of progress that was ignited in 1940,
Mm-hmm.
that continues to resonate
It
in
does.
Pakistan of today.
It does. Thanks for listening to the Mansuri Review. Keep watching The Mansuri Show, reading Pakistan Link and Urdu Link, and stay connected to Pakistan.